How does the Baha'i approach problematize the present-day global order? Put differently, how does the Baha'i Faith critique the structural composition of the present-day international system and, by implication, the order upon which it is sustained? That question. In order for me to unpack how the Baha'i approach problematizes the status quo of the present-day world order, I want to go over three foundational texts and by implication launch a discourse analysis of what each is telling us about problematization of world politics. The three foundational texts I have in mind are as follows: Shoghi Effendi's The Promised Day is Come, John Esslemont's Baha'u'llah and the New Era, and the Universal House of Justice, Promise of World Peace. The Baha'i take about the present-day international system rests on the conviction or observation that, in the words of Shoghi Effendi, we stand on the threshold of an age whose convulsions proclaim alike the death pangs of an old era and the birth pangs of a new. So that's the analytical point of departure on which a critique of the present-day international system is constructed. In other words, the Baha'i approach tells us that we are at that juncture in history wherein something of a profound transformation is taking shape. We're not quite there yet, but we're on the way of getting there, standing on the threshold of an age whose convulsions proclaim alike the death pangs of an old era and the birth pangs of a new. And so in his seminal work, The Promised Day is Come, Shoghi Effendi explains this stance. And 1941 was when he published it, and it was rather a critical year in the formation of World War II, 1941. The Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor and the subsequent declaration of war on Japan by the United States, for example. Also, in Nazi Germany and Japan would declare war against the United States. So we have World War II becoming a truly global conflict. At the same time, the Nazi Germany has just invaded the Soviet Union. So it was within that context that Shoghi Effendi, guardian of the Baha'i Faith, authored The Promised Day is Come, which was really directed to the Baha'is of the West. And so in problematizing the world order, Shoghi Effendi speaks about, or writes about, rather, several things. For example, one of the things that he's writing about is the overly materialist orientation of the world order and, by implication, world politics. Here, to the detriment of a system of ethics, morality, and even spirituality. Hence why he wrote this vital force, speaking about or referencing morality or lack thereof in global politics. This vital force is dying out. This mighty agency has been scorned. This radiant light obscured. He wrote, God himself has been dethroned from the hearts of man, and an idolatrous world is passionately and clamorously hails and worships the false gods, which its own idle fancies have so fatuously created, and its misguided hand has so impiously exalted. And then guardian of the Baha'i Faith speaks about the so-called three false gods. Three false gods that each is responsible for sustaining the present-day world order to various degrees. And hence, he continues, the chief idols, he wrote, in this desecrated temple of mankind are none others than the triple gods, the triple false gods of racialism, nationalism, and communism, at whose altars government and people, whether democratic or totalitarian, at war or at peace, of the East or of the West, Christian or Islamist, are to various degrees now worshipping. After speaking about the three false gods, Shoghi Effendi also references the present day or the mainstream theories of international politics, condemning them for the kind of knowledge that they're producing, which really exalt war, division, and conflict, in this case to the detriment of a lasting global peace. Well, he was Oxford educated. He studied economics and political science, so he was quite well versed in the science of world politics. And in particular, his bringing into account the dominant school of thought within global politics, that is to say, realism. Hence why he wrote their theories and policies. And the context is that he's problematizing what is going on in the world and how the international system is defective. A kind of a system that, according to him, is shaking the limbs of humanity, as he references it. Their theories and policies, he continued, so unsound, so pernicious, that deify the state and exalt the nation above mankind, that subordinate the sister races of the globe in one single race, that discriminate between the black and the white, that exalt one privileged class over all others. These are the dark, the false, the crooked doctrines for which any man or any people who believes in them or acts upon them must sooner or later incur the wrath and chastisement of the forces of universe. The second foundational text, John Esslemont's Baha'u'llah and the New Era. The analytical departing point for Esslemont is the observation that is shared by Shoghi Effendi that I spoke about some minutes earlier, namely that we stand on the threshold of an age whose convulsions proclaim alike the death pangs of an old era and the birth pangs of a new. In taking up that theme, it is also the case that Esslemont is telling us, even though there are formidable obstacles on the way of achieving a new world order and by implication a lasting global peace, the picture is also hopeful. And hence why he wrote that the world has been passing through the death pangs of an old era and the birth pangs of a new is evident to all. That the world is passing through the death pangs of an old era and the birth pangs of a new is evident to all. Take this side by side with Shoghi Effendi's remarks. We stand on the threshold of an age whose convulsions proclaim alike the death pangs of an old era and the birth pangs of a new. Esslemont, that the world is passing through the death pangs of an old era and the birth pangs of a new is evident to all. The old principles of materialism and self-interest. So, like Shoghi Effendi, he's also taking issue with the overly materialist underpinning of international system or world order. In this case, to the detriment of spiritual kind of understanding of ethics and morality. That the world has been passing through the death pangs of an old era and the birth pangs of a new is evident to all. The old principles of materialism and self-interest, the old patriotic prejudices and animosities, Esslemont wrote, are perishing amidst the ruins they have wrought. And in all lands, we see signs of a new spirit of faith, of brotherhood, of sisterhood, of internationalism that is bursting the old bounds and overrunning the old boundaries. The old era is not yet dead, Esslemont continued. It is engaged in a life and death struggle with the new. Evils are gigantic and formidable, but they're being exposed, investigated, critiqued, and attacked with new vigor and hope. So as much as there are formidable obstacles on the way of achieving a new world order and by implication, a global peace, Esslemont is also giving us a hopeful approach that it's inevitable that the world is headed that way. In particular, by the way in which he problematizes notions of self-interest and materialism, both of which are among the chief knowledge relations that mainstream theoretical schools of global politics, namely realism and liberalism, promote as their core ideas. The Universal House of Justice seminal work, The Promise of World Peace, it's a comprehensive document that was published in 1985. I call it a comprehensive document for several reasons. Well, it's not only because it has been translated into more than 70 languages, but in there, the Baha'i Universal House of Justice not only critiques or problematizes the present world order, it also gives us an avenue to think about certain prerequisites that are needed for achieving a lasting global peace. Hence why the document is momentous and comprehensive. It was published on the occasion of International Year of Peace. And once you go over the text, well, the language it's been written, it's reminiscent of Shoghi Effendi's style of writing. But when you go over the text, you notice that the same themes that Esslemont and Shoghi Effendi are articulating to be the chief obstacles to global peace are also highlighted here too, including problematization of the way in which certain dominant political ideologies are informing or sustaining the present-day world order. Not only that, but also the overly materialist outlook to world politics. Hence why in the document the Universal House of Justice wrote, how tragic is the record of the doctrines that the worldly wise of our age have created. So that's the departing point for the House of Justice. Again, problematizing the present-day political ideologies that are sustaining the current world order, but at the same time mainstream theories of global politics. How tragic is the record of the doctrines that the worldly wise of our age have created. The Universal House of Justice continued. In the massive disillusionment of entire populations who have been taught to worship at their altars, can be seen history's irreversible verdict on their values. The fruit these doctrines have produced after years of unrelenting exercise of power by those who owe their ascendancy in human affairs to them are the cultural, political, and economic ills that blight nearly every corner of our world. The House of Justice continued, the time must come when those who preach the dogmas of materialism, whether of the East or of the West, whether of capitalism or socialism, must give account of the moral stewardship they have presumed to exercise. Where is the world order promised by these ideologies? Where is the international peace to whose ideals they proclaim their devotion? Where are the breakthroughs into the new realms of cultural achievement produced by the aggrandizement of this race, of that nation, or of that particular class? Why is it that the majority of the people of the earth are sinking ever deeper into hunger and wretchedness when wealth on a scale undreamed of by the pharaohs, the Caesars, or even the imperialist powers of the 19th and 20th century is at the disposal of the present arbiters of human affairs? These are pressing questions that we almost never ask.